Hi, welcome to Concepts of Web Performance. Today we're going to be talking about TTFB, or time to first byte. It's an important technical measure of your website performance, part of the loading sequence of your web page. I'm Todd Gardner from Quest Metrics. Let's get started. So time to first byte, what is it? Let's define this thing. What are we measuring with time to first byte? It's the time between when the browser initially makes a request, such as you've clicked on a link, you've hit go in the browser, you've refreshed the page, whatever. The time between when the user makes that initial request and when the browser receives the first byte of data from your server. So that includes any time you spend in redirects, going from HTTP to HTTPS or third-party redirects, DNS time, SSL time, transfer time, and some geographical time between how far your servers or CDN is from the actual users visiting your website. It's part of the loading sequence of metrics, which is a subjective set of technical measures of the performance of your page, including time to first byte, document content loaded, and the page load event. Let's take a look at a waterfall of where this goes. So the initial request, the click will show up right here, and then any time spent doing redirects will be shown here in this line. The final request to the web page will be made right here, and then we're measuring all of this wait time, the time where the browser is just sitting there, the user staring at just a white screen, waiting for something to happen. Now this could be quite long, it could be quite fast, depending on the nature of your website and whether the user is a returning visitor. And that's the TTFB metric that we're measuring. It will always be the first thing in the loading sequence because nothing else can really happen until we've gotten there. In a film strip, a visual thing, this is happening and there is no real user indication to it. They were staring at a white screen before TTFB. They're probably staring at a white screen after TTFB. There's not a whole lot to measure there. This is purely a technical measure that like something has been delivered to the browser. So when would you use this? TTFB is really important to understand how long your users are waiting to connect to your website or your CDN. It's essentially a blocking wait time until anything else can happen. How would you listen to this? Well, JavaScript isn't running at the time of TTFB. The browser hasn't done anything yet. So we can't really just listen to it. We can't just say, hey, add event listener to TTFB. So instead, we're going to use the Performance Observer API, which allows us to interrogate all kinds of detailed performance information, both current, future, and historical. So the Performance Observer, we're going to set up a new one, and it's set up to always receive a list of events. In the case of TTFB, though, there's only ever going to be one. There can only be one first byte. So instead of like going through this whole list, we just pick out, the first one. That's the only one we care about. And that's going to be called the navigation entry. It's got all the data about that initial navigation event. Now, what we're looking for is a property called response start. It's not called TTFB because that's not how it's defined in the spec. This is the start of the response data. Now, if we wanted to look at all the details, those are fully documented out here. Here's like every single step that the browser goes through as part of the request. And TTFB is collectively measuring all of these. All of these things together is the time we're spending before time to first byte. Now, the Performance Observer, this isn't running at the time that TTFB fires. It happens historically. And so when we start up our observer with observer.observe, we remember to attach the buffered true property. This lets us get information about performance events that have happened in the past so that we can pull them forward and actually report on them and do interesting things. So should you use TTFB for web performance? Absolutely. It is an important measure. Google cares about it. I care about it. Request Metrics cares about it. It is a subjective measure of technical performance. And so by that, I mean, you can't compare the performance of two sites by comparing their TTFBs. A fast TTFB score doesn't necessarily mean your website is fast. You could deliver that really, really fast, and for all kinds of other reasons, the website could still be painfully slow. But a slow TTFB definitely means your website is slow because it blocks everything else. If the user spent waiting 4 seconds or 3 seconds staring at a white screen waiting for that TTFB event, there's really no other performance improvement that you can make to turn that into a good situation. So you absolutely can use TTFB to measure the server timings, to measure the timing of server responses and geographical distance of your users. But you can't use it to measure any user experience because it's not really tied to that. There's no user experience event or implication of TTFB. It's strictly a technical measure. If you want to learn more about TTFB, other web performance metrics, or how to think about it, check out my course on Front-End Masters called The Fundamentals of Web Performance. Teach you all kinds of things about the metrics, how to make your website faster, and how to set up a culture of performance in your team. Or if you're trying to improve the TTFB and other performance of your website, check out Request Metrics. It's the unified web performance tool. It combines lab testing, real user monitoring, and Google data to give you a comprehensive, unified view of how your page performs for real users and what's slowing it down. This was Time to First Byte on concepts of web performance. Thanks so much for joining me. If I taught you something, please give me a like. Let me know that you appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.